Welcome, friends,
to the How To Heretic.
I'm Uncle Mark.
I'm Uncle Dan.
I'm Uncle Doug.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is your first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world. Things work differently now.
Never fear. That's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields.
We're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, you only get one that we know of, so you'd better make the most of it.
Guys.
Hello.
To who?
It is episode 112 of the Impossible Podcast, the How To Heretic, and we got a weird one for you today.
Yeah,
this might have been better on Halloween.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. It's
I like it
feels
too.
It feels like fall.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
because
It
it feels
does feel like
death.
fall. There's some death. So I'm going to talk about why maybe Dan and Doug shouldn't breed.
And we didn't.
And we didn't.
Not for lack of trying.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about fools departing their money quickly, and also launch our new product line.
Yeah, indeed.
That's
And
right.
I am going to talk about the menu that none of you asked for.
It's what's for dinner.
Wow, we're playing it mysterious on this one. So
And we have an important announcement to make, don't we?
That's right.
Don't we, Uncle Dan?
we do very much so. So we are helping out with one of the most amazing charity drives in the heretical podosphere, and that is the Vulgarity for Charity drive. This is something that the guys over at Scathing Atheist and Cognitive Dissonance have been doing for a few years now. We're here to boost their signal because they're doing good stuff. They're raising money for an organization called Modest Needs, which is an awesome organization.
It really is.
They are so fucking good.
And they basically, people who don't qualify for help elsewhere, they just they just help them out.
Because this is America, and the bar for qualifying for help is very low. So you might not make much money, but you make more than the government would consider you to be poor.
Yeah,
Right.
And these are guys that are helping people out who are kind of in that one paycheck away from disaster moment, and so it's their electricity bill, their car payment, or they need to pay for their prescription, and they just don't have the dough.
Yeah,
and it's very immediate. People apply, and they're kind of screened. And I think the turnaround on some of these requests is incredibly quick.
Yeah,
to help people. From,
and it's just helping. And what's great about this particular fund drive is that you get the tax break for giving to these guys, but you also get if you give $50 or more, you can get a roast for someone in your life or someone or a celebrity or whatever.
Yeah.
Done by the meanest people in kind podcasting, which are the Scathing Boys, the Cogdis Boys, or even us. Yep. We will be participating in this in some way or other, and so you could probably request that it come from us. I'm not sure. Go ahead. What harm can be done? But yes, if you give $50 or more, you will get a roast of somebody that you either love or hate, and it's all for good charity. So,
and there's a mysterious donor this year that is matching those donations up to $100,000.
That's right. So
you give 50, you're given 100.
That's right. So give 50. Go to what you do is you go to modestneeds.org. You give them $50. They will email you a receipt. You send that receipt along to vulgarityforcharity@gmail.com. That's vulgarity. It's all words. It's all spelled out. It's not the number 4. So vulgarityforcharity@gmail.com. So you send them your receipt plus the name and info and maybe a picture, if it's helpful, of a person that you want roasted. And roasted they shall be.
We'll take them down a peg.
And it can be, it's a person, place, or thing. You can, you can roast genocide. You can roast Chevy pickup trucks, whatever you want.
Eric Trump.
Heath really hates it if you want a dog roasted, so that's kind of funny to do too.
And last year we did this with these guys. We had a ton of fun, and together we raised, I can't remember what the total was, but with an anonymous donation, it was over $100,000 for this charity.
Yeah, so this one should
this
make
year,
it.
It's so much more. So
Yeah, and if you can't afford $50, you can still give 10 or 20, and you won't get a roast out of it.
But you'll have helped somebody out.
But send the email along so that they know, and then that matching dollars it'll double your dollars.
That's right.
So so go ahead and do that, and listen to those shows for our voices coming on and being mean.
Not in lieu of this show. Don't you fucking dare do that.
Listen to our show most, but also to those guys.
Right on.
All right.
So, all right, let's do a show.
Woo! Hey, Uncle Doug.
Uncle Dan.
You know what? I sometimes when I was growing up, I'd look at my mom and I'd be like, I didn't ask to be born. And it's true. That is a fact.
Yeah.
I did not, in fact, ask to be born, unless you go by the Mormon theology, in which case I did.
You did.
So
You did. It's in that documentary called Saturday's Warrior, if you haven't seen it.
such a beautiful, beautiful work.
Yeah.
That one is. But there are questions about whether or not about birth and about what should and shouldn't happen. And I think Uncle Mark is here to tell us a story about that. Is that true, Uncle Mark?
Good news, guys. There's a science for that, and I'm going to tell you all about it. And by the end, I bet you'll be convinced.
Of science?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, of this particular science, I think you're going to be very excited by it.
I already am.
So guys, as we've said on the show before, woo is a resting place many a good person might take solace in after they've fled woo's insane, abusive older sister, religion. Now we've said if religion is the opiate of the masses, then woo is the methadone of the masses. and this week's woo is a particularly deadly methadone. Most of the woo we cover doesn't have much of a body count, though they're all potentially harmful. This week's woo, out for which to watch, does it have a body count? And that's because this week's woo is eugenics.
Oh.
Often more accurately referred to as scientific racism.
It's better when it's
correctly
backed
so.
by science.
Yes, and racism.
Yeah.
So now, dear listener, some of you might be thinking that eugenics is actually the academic field of study about your friend Eugene, who's semi-retired but keeps a few shifts at the airport to keep his benefits package active. And as interesting as Eugene surely is, it's actually not about Eugene. It's never about Eugene. So, no, eugenics comes from the Greek simply meaning good or well born, and who could be against people being born well? But eugenics is really the idea that people can be bred into a higher state of physical and intellectual being by selective breeding, and a whole bunch of other shit that falls under that umbrella, like comparative racial study, the relative values of the disabled, and a list of nightmares we can essentially just call the 20th century. It was founded, rather unhelpfully, we'll discover as time has worn on, by a cousin of Charles Darwin.
Is that true?
That's
It's true.
hilarious.
God.
Yeah, and inspired by some of the works of Darwin. And he's a guy named Francis Galton in 1883. And that's right, an air quote, science that has led to the death of millions of human beings and the torture of many millions more was founded by a cousin of our great satanic Lord Darwin, to whom we atheists sacrifice our multiracial, non-binary children at the abortionacle every year on Gay Pride Eve, as we read backwards from his diabolical Bible on the origin of the species, about how variations in the beaks of Galapagos finches may explain how life on Earth has changed over time. Not helpful.
So is this
Can someone please come up with a place called an actual abortionacle, because that is gorgeous. What a beautiful turn of phrase you have, Uncle Mark.
Thank you. I do have a way with terrible words, don't I?
we should is this the cousin that he married, or I guess it's not, is it?
No, that kind of thing wasn't considered eugenically allowable at the time, as it was a boy cousin.
His cousin and brother-in-law. and also his uncle.
But he was a half cousin, whatever that means, or a step cousin or something. So I guess that matrimony could have been allowed under the laws of eugenics. but that sort of thing is particularly singled out, as you'll see in a minute. Now, remember, as we've discussed with topics like John Harvey Kellogg in episode 103, or even the absurdity of the Hollow Earth in episode 52, the 19th century was awash in terrible pseudosciences and balderdash that have only been revealed as such with the passage of time and the advancement of real science.
Right.
A lot of people who you would think should have known better, at least on moral grounds, if not scientific grounds, believed in the principles of eugenics and the very, very slippery slopes those ideas teetered upon. And while there are a few ideas that eugenics... I should be selected out for my cough.
You're right.
There are a few ideas that are considered eugenic that are arguably good, such as siblings and close cousins should not procreate, and that non-viable fetuses that would either die upon birth or live short, agonizing lives should be aborted, to name, well, like
two.
The only two good ideas.
Technically, that's two.
That's two, so that's plural. And the rest of the ideas range from awful to evil. A big part of the problem of eugenics and its 100-plus year history is that it's a cudgel that gets picked up by whomever happens to be in power in a place at any given moment. This is well illustrated by the British showing up and toppling any of the dozens of non-Caucasian societies that had things the English wanted. So various factors went into the British Empire being militarily superior to, say, the Burmese, such as the mad luck of abundant resources in a temperate climate, constant military conflict with other seafaring powers forcing the development of ships and weapons other societies had no need for, a religious dogma and history demanding a kind of manifest destiny, a cultural ruthlessness, a capitalistic business culture demanding limitless resources, etc. All advantages on the battlefield, yes. Racial superiority, no. But that didn't mean that the skulls of the vanquished peoples wouldn't be stuffed with rice grains and compared to the number of grains that could be gotten into old Lord so-and-so's skull. That's literally true. Length of fingers and limbs, hair color and texture, teeth, etc. were all measured and weighed and cataloged. And what do you know, every single time the science of eugenics found that the white British ruling class were genetically superior to the Indians, the Chinese, the Burmese, every stripe of African, Himalayan, and Australian you can imagine.
I will say this. I have a lot of British blood in me, English and otherwise, and I will say I have a very large head. So
your head is we could get all the rice in your head.
My rice grain factor is through the roof.
Well, that may not be true. You have a very large head.
I have a large outside of my head.
We don't know how big your skull is.
We don't know.
Right.
The cavity inside clearly holds a minuscule little brain.
Yeah.
And as I know from many times when I've hit my head, there's a lot of padding between the two.
You've got a football helmet underneath your skin.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you could be thick of bone.
I am. I am indeed.
So, of course, when you understand that eugenics was a conclusion in search of confirming data, you come to realize the house always wins. A quick thought experiment. If we can assume that the genetically superior of any given society come to rule it, you have quite a bit of surprising research ahead of you about, say, the histories of the ruling classes of Egypt, Spain, England, just to name a few. Remember one of the things eugenics got right? Don't fuck your cousins. That puts to bed the argument that royalty is superior to the rest of us.
Right. Royalty
has long been at base the business of cousin fucking.
Yeah, that's why the Habsburgs died of paper cuts.
That's right. Anyone who wears a crown wears it to maintain the shape of their soft skull. It's kind of like a retainer. And just to make that point a bit more agonizing for our American friends, if indeed those who rule us are our genetic superiors, we are at this moment devolving into literal jellyfish, and we are supremely fucked. The Trump clan seem unable to stand without constant conscious thought about how to do so. And their mouths are somehow rotated 90 degrees so they open vertically like a grasshopper rather than as human mouths do, making the words absurd, industry, origin, and Beyonce literally impossible to pronounce. There are other paths to power aside from genetic excellence. But here's a fun tidbit. The idea that there are superior races and that forced selective breeding can improve them is older than Darwin's cousin's idea by a lot. Plato suggested breeding a race of super Greeks. The Bible has more than a little to say about which races are the good ones. We talk about that more than a little bit here on the show.
Yes, indeed.
But the actual idea of racial hygiene, which is another name for eugenics, found traction very close to home for us fellas. Can you guess by whom? I'll give you a tiny hint. It starts with M and rhymes with Normans.
Yeah.
That's right, boys. Well before eugenics was coined as a term, the one true church on earth, dedicated to nothing other than the love of Jesus and all of God's children, was thinking about how to breed out all the human trash that polluted American society.
Well, the thing about it is that what happened was God made the darker-skinned folk darker-skinned because they were evil. And then, wait, sorry, my race relations just got completely derailed for a second there. It must be ipso facto from that they are inferior people and therefore should be somehow eugenicsed out, right?
Eugenicsed?
Like, isn't that
Eugenified.
the only
Yes.
conclusion that one could come to?
All it makes sense.
Let me have soon-to-be Mormon apostle George Q. Cannon explain to you from the pages of his very own Mormon newspaper in 1857 exactly your point. Experience has long since taught mankind the necessity of observing certain natural laws in the propagation of animals, or stock will denigrate and finally become extinct. But strange to say, in regard to the human animal, these laws, except in certain particulars, are more or less disregarded in these latter days. The inevitable consequence is the race is degenerating.
Oh, no!
New diseases are introduced, while effeminacy and barrenness are on the increase. And worse than all, this evil condition of the body has its effects upon the mind. Strong start, he continues.
Yeah.
Doubtless it is and ought to be the duty of legislators and conservators of our race to introduce such regulations and laws and enforce them as are best calculated to develop our physical nature. A well-formed, healthy, vigorous race should be the end sought. The ancient Spartans acted upon this policy, and the happy result was the production of a nation of the noblest men and women the world ever saw. No diseased and effeminate person was permitted to marry and curse the world with a tainted offspring.
I love
The children of the entire republic belonged to the government, which appointed competent persons to superintend their physical and mental training. And when the fit time arrived, they married them as they saw fit, keeping constantly in view of the improvement of the race. A malformed man will have malformed mind. A well-developed intellectual brain will produce a philosophic mind. And then I'll finish up. He's got a great conclusion here. True and effective reform must begin in the marriage bed. License to marry should not. And Mormons are walking out on some very thin ice when they start talking about marriage. But you'll see why he does it. License to marry should not come from the priest, but from the physician. It will be when the law forbids the unhealthy to beget children, when it compels every healthy man to marry, when refusal to this will debar him from holding office, from voting, from suing at courts of law, from making contracts, from following any learned profession.
Holy shit.
When it suffers no healthy girl to remain single after she becomes of proper age, when no whore shall be permitted to live, when illicit intercourse shall be punished with death, that we shall witness any improvement in the morals of the age.
Wow.
Okay, when did he say that?
1857.
Holy fuck.
That's remarkable. I will say this. Now I'm feeling guilty that I didn't pass my perfect genes on. I do feel a little bad.
I think the three of us have some work ahead of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Boy.
We have to kill all the whores and involuntarily bed every woman of breeding age.
Father all of the children.
God damn.
So it goes on, and like the British imperialists, the Mormons picked up the idea of eugenics to defend polygamy. Yes, we're weird, but we're white people, and wouldn't it be better if we all just fucked our way to a wider and more delightsome earthly existence?
Right.
Well, this is all just pulled from one single article written by Apostle George Q. Cannon. Purifying the blood of the saints to arrive at a wider world was a foundational Mormon principle, made abundantly clear in inarguable detail by the second prophet and real father of what is Mormonism, Brigham Young. You can listen to our story on his love of blood atonement in episode number 50. But Pure white Mormon blood and racial hygiene was very much on the mind of the highly revered Mormon apostle, soon-to-be prophet Spencer W. Kimball, who in this real 1960 General Conference talk...
Yeah, I was going to say, Kimball's a lot later than George Cannon.
1960, was pleased as punch that the tawny Navajos could be made white in just a few short generations.
Yep.
And I quote, "At one meeting, a father and mother and their 16-year-old daughter were present. The little member girl, 16, sitting between the dark father and mother, and it was evident she was several shades lighter than her parents. On the same reservation, in the same hogan, subject to the same sun and wind and weather. There was the doctor in a Utah city who for 2 years had had an Indian boy in his home who stated that he was some shades lighter than the younger brother just coming into the program from the reservation. These young members of the church are changing to whiteness and delightsomeness. One white elder jokingly said that he and his companion were donating blood regularly to the hospital in the hope that the process might be accelerated."
Oh, fuck me. Wow.
Don't fret, dirty brown people. These noble, insufferable 19-year-old virgins are here to make you whiter 1 pint at a time.
Oh, my God.
Well, if generating a white and delightsome utopia was the goal of Mormonism, you go to Provo, they succeeded on the white part.
Welcome to Utah. Less than delightsome, but we're working on it.
I know that quote sounds insane. You can look it up. You know what? I'll actually put a link to it in the show notes.
Yeah.
It's called "The Day of the Lamanites" by Spencer W. Kimball, General Conference, 1960. It's only about 6 pages. Please read it. But trust me, reading the whole thing does not make it any better.
Right.
And remember, Mormonism's earliest foundation is laid on a garbage eugenic idea. That being the laughably stupid pseudoscientific balderdash of comparative anatomy, that basically some Jews have large noses and have brown skin, some Native Americans have large noses and brown skin. Ipso facto, multo stupido, Native Americans are Jews. This foundational idea can and should be ridiculed because it's fucking ridiculous. As we know, DNA has obliterated the very first principle of the Book of Mormon. But let's leave the Mormons for a spell.
Yes, please.
And see whom else might have found this idea of the powerful being genetically ordained to be so. As I touched on, the early 20th century America was pretty consumed with eugenics. Our old friend and all-around evil piece of shit, John Harvey Kellogg, embraced it fervently, as did literal Nazi car salesman Henry Ford, as well as a host of other villains.
He sold Nazi cars?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, Volkswagen's right.
And that's a clue. Look up Volkswagens. So widespread was the enthusiasm for racial improvement. Even people we now consider the good guys were down with some aspects of it, like W.E.B. Du Bois, an African-American intellectual and civil rights champion, and Margaret Sanger, major feminist and early pro-abortion activist who founded Planned Parenthood. So that's not good. In the U.S., eugenics had led to laws being passed that led to countless tens of thousands of, air quotes, defectives being sterilized.
Yep.
The skulls of black Americans and Native Americans, even its poor Eastern and Southern European immigrants, were found to accommodate far fewer rice grains than those of its white Protestant colonizers, and their humanity was yet again adjusted downward for this deficiency. The handicapped, the mentally ill, garden variety criminals, and the just plain poor were sterilized without consent as a matter of course. This was, by the way, just made illegal in prisons in California in 2014.
What?
The state of California was still sterilizing people involuntarily in prisons as late as 2014.
Were they still doing it, or was that just when it was made illegal?
They were, because it was still it wasn't like the mass program it had been, but it was still doing when people were put under for different kinds of surgeries. They'd wake up with, sterilized.
Oh my God! You know what?
Yeah.
I will say this: it's a tempting road to go down when you see some real dickheads, like when you see the Trump family.
Yeah.
The idea of forced sterilization is a tempting one at its heart.
Yeah.
I get the temptation there.
Well, Dan's on the record now.
Decidedly pro-eugenics. I did not see that coming.
I don't think I said that. I think I managed to avoid saying that though it's true, I think I didn't say it.
He is bedeviled by the size of his head.
Listen, you small grain rice bastards. I'm the one who knows.
Some eugenics proponents even advocated gas chambers to eliminate, air quotes, defectives.
Wow.
Yes, in the United States in the 1920s. Luckily, it's cooler, larger heads prevailed.
Yes.
So all this exciting new activity in the field of might making right in America was being closely watched overseas. One particular place that had a strong interest in prepackaged proof of the superior rice storing capacity of big white heads was, shocker, 1930s Germany. And in fact, one very interested German was being funded in his research on the subject by none other than the venerable Rockefeller Foundation's eugenics program. His name was Dr. Joseph Mengele.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, this is just a nightmare, right? So this may come as a shock to some, but a tremendous amount of the groundwork that led to the German Holocaust and its still ongoing echoes was done right here in the US of A. The American displacement and extermination of our native population, the semi-slavery of Jim Crow and forced segregation and lynching of our black citizens, and of course our ideas about race, intelligence, and human worth were all very inspiring to a frustrated watercolorist who had big dreams and a small mustache. That's right. Hitler literally name-checked American racial brutality as a major inspiration for him.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Hitler and his Make Germany Great Again crowd took to eugenics like John Harvey Kellogg took to cutting the tips off of little boys' dicks. They could not get enough of it. So if you have the stomach for it, you can go online and find Nazi eugenic charts and propaganda. And as it always was, the, quote, evidence was designed to support a conclusion. So blue eyes and blonde hair, straight little noses and freckles are considered superior. Traits common among Eastern European Jews were consciously selected to be charted as genetically inferior. You know, it was almost as if the game was rigged because it was.
What's always shocking to me about that fact is this whole worship of the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, perfected German kid.
Yeah.
Like, you look at Hitler,
Right.
and he was very much not that.
The short, poncy, greasy,
Dark-haired,
yeah.
dark-eyed,
Dark-haired Jewish fellow.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, well, I think we're discovering in the world in the 21st century that the leaders aren't necessarily held to the same rules that their subjects are, right? So
weird.
A quick aside, but a seriously critical one. The Nazis, just like their American counterparts who were super psyched about eugenics, were not atheists. Not even a little.
Yeah.
No.
Nazism was an evolving blend of very conservative German Catholicism, the rabidly anti-Semitic Protestantism of native son Martin Luther, and, thanks mostly to really super bad guy Heinrich Himmler, a sprinkling of Norse neo-paganism that really put the wind in the master race's sails. Yes, they were superior because they were motherfucking white and currently in charge, but they were in charge because the gods, those being Yahweh, Jesus, and Odin, had built humanity thusly.
Right.
And they had good old Yankee science with the backing of the Rockefeller Foundation, Henry Ford, the U.S. Indian Health Service, and the U.S. Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, with a big technological lift from IBM to prove them right and doom millions to death because of eye color and rice grains. And this is where we all chant USA, USA, USA. So,
You're going to force me to go home and throw out all my IBM products just to boycott
pretty
that.
much.
Yeah.
And Volkswagen and Hugo Boss, and we'll keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
So the unpleasantness of World War II and the nightmare of junk science of eugenics are all gone now, I'm happy to report. Except that, no, they are not. In fact, because of the very fine people at 4chan and 8chan, Breitbart, InfoWars, Fox News, and every other uncleanable corner of the internet where slime can fester, racial hygiene is back as an idea for America's forgotten white Christian majority who are experiencing 12 million Holocausts because you just can't say fag like you used to could. So President Trump, who on camera has bragged about his, and I'm quoting, good German blood, has given new life to the 101st Mom's Basement Battalion of keyboard commandos to emerge from their subterranean ramparts, bravely don khakis and polo shirts, buy torches normally used for joyful backyard parties, and shuffle around small towns screaming, "Jews will not replace us." Pale, slightly out of breath, exhilarated by the sudden terror of not knowing where their next juice box would come from. These genetic also-rans are just the latest part of the beautiful dream that white people are superior. They were given hope by being called very fine people by another flaccid, mediocre accident of history who daily proves there is nothing genetically superior to whiteness.
Except orangeness.
Yeah, exactly. And President Good German Blood's super buddy, Jeffrey Epstein, who is, for one reason or another, dead, he tried to engineer did you guys know about this?
Yeah.
He tried to engineer a eugenic sexual slash birthing slavery system where no fewer than 20 selected women at a time would be carrying his seed, since humanity could not exist without a clone army of billionaire pedophiles to guide it.
Yikes.
He was so brilliant and so determined in this eugenic mission, he wanted both his head and penis frozen upon his death. This is a true, but was such a fucking genius, he didn't realize that what men make more versions of themselves with is in their balls.
Right.
Not their saggy dick or their bloated head, which, as we know, is really only useful for storing the most rice. So thank you, pretty white Jesus, for the white billionaire pedophile geniuses that watch over us as we sleep. So that's eugenics, fellas, a scientific racism to support the claims of whatever race happens to be in charge at any given moment.
Oh my God, it's so not okay. Here's what's funny though. You've been in this whole report been taking it for granted that people will understand why it's not okay. And I think that one of the things about eugenics is that there are certain aspects of it that feel like that have an appeal. Like,
yeah.
Well, why shouldn't the strongest people marry the strongest people and then create more strong, like even stronger babies? And
right.
Why should, isn't that a good thing? Because again, all of this has a sort of a rather tempting flavor to it. You know what I mean? There's the idea of creating better humans seems like something we should all like.
Or on the other side of that same coin, when you see, a typical a large family with lots of young kids throwing temper tantrums in the theater row right behind me,
right?
You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and I even among my friends, I've heard people say, "Well, you guys should have kids because you're smart, and the smart people need to be having kids. We can't just leave it to all of the dumb." And it's just like, you are on a little bit of shaky ground there.
Okay, so you get to be the judge of who's dumb and who's smart.
Right.
That's awesome.
That's kind of what we do for a living.
Yeah, well, shush.
Well,
but I will say this: even our own heroes, heroes. I'm not declaring this person to be one of my heroes, but even guys like Dawkins, Richard Dawkins, who's he's a genetic biologist by trade. Someone needs to take away his Twitter account because at one point he tweeted that women who find out that they are carrying children with Down syndrome should all abort.
Ooh.
And it's just yikes.
And again, that gets back to the comparative use of the disabled, right?
The value of humans in general.
The value of human and their individual lives,
right?
And their freedom to live as best they can in a way of their own choosing. It just says no. Society will decide for you if you're too stupid to live,
right,
and have a child. And I think
if you have worth, we'll figure that out. Don't you worry about it. We'll sort out whether or not.
And this is not theoretical. The impetus behind the Muslim ban and the border policy of this country right now are informed by eugenic type thinking, right?
Yeah.
Trying to keep the country white to prevent the browns from getting too uppity,
too mixed in.
Yep, it's. Ugh.
Yeah, remember when this used to be a melting pot? That was the thought. We were supposed to take in everybody and
the heady days of 2015.
Right.
Yeah, but then we started stuffing skulls with rice, and before you know it, what was supposed to be a fun centerpiece has turned into a nightmare.
Well, that's and also a delicious meal for all involved, which maybe that's what we'll get to when I start talking later in the show. We'll see.
Yeah. We'll call it Rice a Racist. It'll be great. So it's a delicious treat. The San Francisco treat.
Yes,
all right,
indeed.
Well, with that, let's move on.
Let's do it. Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Have you? It's coming upon the season where we can all give thanks for a song that tells us the beautiful story about a child who saved all of his money and yet still couldn't afford to buy his dying mother a pair of the most beautiful shoes he had ever seen.
I believe you're referring to Christmas shoes, Dan.
I am referring to Christmas shoes. It's the most beautiful song that I will shoot myself if I ever have to listen to again.
But definitely
who
listen
wrote
listen to Patton Oswalt's breakdown of it if you have it on YouTube. It's very, very funny.
Yeah, it's the worst song that's ever been written on the face of the earth.
Why do I think there's a Glenn Beck tie-in to this? Does he have some? Doesn't he, Doug? Does he have some tie-in to the Christmas shoes?
Why do you ask me like I know all things Glenn Beck?
Other than
Because you pay attention to those fucking assholes in a way we don't. Like,
other than crying every time he hears it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think that if Uncle Doug's going to tell us about what I think he's going to tell us about, this story could go very differently.
Yeah, it is going to go differently. So I'm going to talk about a very different kind of shoe, but there is a tie-in. But
okay.
Before I dig into the segment today, I wanted to give a quick update of a segment I did back in episode 82. Those of you listening to this podcast around the time it comes out will have probably heard that Donald Trump's spiritual advisor, Paula White, went from being an unpaid advisor to a paid member of the White House staff last week.
Oh, so good.
That's right. Paula White, who looks like Janice from Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem, got bad surgery and found Jesus.
how dare you talk about Janice like that?
She is being paid by you, the taxpayer. We, of course, here don't pay taxes because the How To Heretic is nothing more than an elaborate tax shelter.
I wish. Why we need to do that?
Let's see.
All our money goes to Soros.
Our next Patreon goal is to get a tax exempt status.
Cody, cut out the crime from the podcast I just did there. So
he's got a filter. It's an automatic filter. That's why the shows are only 9 minutes long.
Right. If you want to know more about this disaster of a human being, go back and listen to our obviously effective takedown of her. And for those of you listening to our podcast in some scorched wasteland in the future, the answer is yes. We knew. We just didn't care that much, so sucks to be you.
Yeah.
But back in that same episode 82, Uncle Dan talked about the feeding of the masses by Jesus and then his subsequent aquatic stroll. So when I came across this article in Esquire, I couldn't help myself. The article is about a particular pair of shoes designed by Brooklyn-based design company MSCHF called the Jesus Shoes. And when I say designed, I'm being a bit generous.
I love that you spelled it out and didn't say the word mischief. Because we're old. Because that's what we do.
Well,
if you skip vowels,
that's how you spell the word.
If you skip vowels, we're not saying the word. We're just going to spell it out.
That's right.
These are, and this is for real, plain pair of Nike Air Max 97s that feature cavities in the soles that are injected with fully blessed holy water from the River Jordan.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. They also feature Vatican red insoles that smell like frankincense, a steel crucifix on the laces, and an inscription from Matthew 14:25, which is the verse about Jesus walking on water.
Wow.
The shoe's asking price, and this is also real, was $1,425, which is referencing that verse from Matthew. Now,
oh my God.
If you think there would never be somebody
the price is a Bible verse. That's
I know, isn't that great?
amazing.
It's so funny. If you think there would never be anybody stupid enough to fall for such an idiotic stunt, well, welcome, new listener. We're happy to have you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Mischief's total inventory of these shoes sold out in 1 minute. And,
oh, my God.
And the shoes price shot up on the secondary market, with some knobs dropping over $4,000 for a pair of these shoes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll draw on some shoes with Sharpie if you want.
Exactly. There's a little more to this story than meets the eye. It turns out that Mischief, surprisingly, has a history of creating bizarre products and media initiatives that serve to generate both hype and dollars. These product launches are dropped on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. They have done things like load a computer with 6 types of malware that have cost the economy over $95 billion. This piece of art, called The Persistence of Chaos, sold at auction for $1.35 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
These guys are good at marketing.
That's right. They also created a YouTube channel called Man Eating Food, in which a man will eat whatever is suggested by subscribers. And they also created a font called Newer Times Roman, which looks just like New Times Roman, except that each letter is just ever so slightly wider, meaning that lazy college students can reach their assigned page count for papers with less words.
Oh,
Okay.
that one I could have used.
These guys are brilliant.
They're pretty funny.
This is quite brilliant, yeah.
So this is what Mischief does, and the Jesus shoes were obviously meant to be a joke, riffing on consumer culture and pointless cross-branding. In fact, they were upfront about it, with company head of commerce Daniel Greenberg saying in interviews that he was inspired by a silly collaboration between Arizona Iced Tea and Adidas.
Right.
Yeah. But there are apparently a culture of people who call themselves hype beasts that basically try and anticipate what product or trends might explode and get in before it does. So if you can buy a pair of Jesus shoes for $1,425 and resell them for $4,000, that's not a bad day's work. Of course, if there's no fool further down the way willing to pay top dollar for them, you're hosed.
Yeah.
Now, whether the people buying up these shoes are doing so because they like the religious angle, they want to just flaunt how wealthy they are, or just think the shoes are really cool, doesn't matter. All three groups can easily be placed in the bucket marked fool. Now, you all may be members of a club so cool that I would never be admitted, but I will console myself by withdrawing $1,425 in ones and rolling around naked on my bed with them.
which you are wont to do.
It's kind of my thing. So,
Too bad you don't have that kind of money.
so however, I am
You
intrigued.
can do it in nickels. Don't worry.
Exactly.
Same number.
That's poor.
I am intrigued by the notion that there are hipsters and Christians with disposable incomes willing to part with their money for trendy, biblical-themed gack. So today, I am introducing the How To Heretics' new line of holy accoutrements and faith-affirming tchotchkes under the brand name Heretique.
Ooh. It has no vowels except the I at the end.
Item number 1 on today's list is the Mother of God personal vibrator. That's right. This handcrafted sex toy is made from actual Lebanese cedar in the image of the Virgin Mary herself and has only been used once by a now defrocked nun in Croatia.
Wow.
So get your holy rocks off and protect the environment at the same time with this fully solar-powered, olive oil-scented artisanal bean tickler. Yes, the olive oil, like Mary herself, is extra virgin. This item goes for the low price of $69.69.
How To Heretic is not responsible for slivers.
Or
What better way to ring the devil's doorbell?
Or how about this blessed be the Peacemaker's customized AK-47 assault rifle? Each one of these collectible killing machines was lovingly removed from a dead teenage member of Hezbollah.
Oh, God.
The hollowed-out handle is filled with the tears of grieving mothers trapped in centuries of intractable conflict, and the barrel is inscribed with Matthew 5:9. So shoot up your workplace the holy way with this one-of-a-kind murder weapon for the unbelievable price of $4,700. And finally,
That's cheap, actually.
for those
I feel
trendy...
like you're underpricing these things.
Oh, they'll bounce up on the secondary market. Finally, for those trendy faithful on the go who want to make sure their bling is blessed, there's the Eye of the Needle money clip. This 24-karat bill tender is made from 100% pure Nazi gold and can hold up to 25 bills at one time. Each one of these truly beautiful clips has been held out to and then pulled away from a starving Venezuelan child.
God.
and is imprinted with Matthew 19:24, which reads, And again I say unto you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. You can take your ironic douchebaggery to the next level for the bargain price of $1,924. So, call now, heretics. Supplies are limited.
I feel like we're a bad show now. I feel like we're evil.
I feel like we've crossed into something different at this point.
Did that happen?
But if there's money to be made, I'm down.
Oh yeah, believe me, I'm okay with it. It's just I was confused for a second. I forgot who we were.
And by the way, if we ever get off our asses and get some merch together, that part of our website will be the Heretique.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
You're welcome. Yeah, so there you go, the Jesus shoes. So enjoy that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, somebody is out there writing a Christian song about those shoes as we speak. It will be.
It's Kanye.
It is Kanye. 100%. It is Kanye. So look for that dropping in December.
Yeah.
Our next president.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move along then. Oh, gentlemen. Oh,
Hey.
are you singing? What are you doing? You got
You
a
caught
little...
me in the middle of a five count there.
When you're a jet, you're a jet.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, Doug, no, don't. Don't. That was
Hey,
bad.
You started the snapping, Mark. You can't yell at Doug for that.
You've caught me limbering up in my studio.
Oh, thank God. That's
Yeah.
good.
You were wearing your tap shoes earlier.
I was wearing my tap shoes earlier. That's a story for another time.
Indeed, it is. We have a few people to thank, so I'm going to get to it right off the bat. Thanks so much to Tim and Charlie for their fine donations to our cause.
We love you.
And that is just doing the show. Our cause is just doing the show. So thank you guys so much for that. And if anybody wants to be a patron of this show, and everyone should, I don't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this show and you like it at all, do it quick before you get to the next segment. Go
Exactly. If you like the show and you're listening to the patron section, you really like this show.
Yeah, exactly.
now.
Yeah, exactly. So go to howtoheretic.com, click on the support business, get yourself to our Patreon, and become a donor. And you can choose how much or how little you want to give. It's up to you. There's no maximum limit, as Uncle Mark likes to point out,
No upper limit.
and you can you can give as much as you can, but you can also give as little as you like.
And remember that this is not exclusively for people who love the show. If you hate it, you can
That's
give
right.
too.
Give more.
There's a number that will make us stop. Just see if you can get there.
There is.
Right?
Just email us. We'll give you the figure.
Right.
Yeah, Curtin McConkey, there is a number that you can make it stop. Just we'll let you know when you get there.
Also, we can always use as many stars as you're willing to dole out. So go to wherever you listen to us and give us 5 stars. Never 4, never 3, never 2.
That's right.
Certainly never 1. And we'll appreciate that too.
5 or die, bitches.
Yahoo! Let's roll.
Uncle Mark,
Yeah.
you've known me my whole life, truthfully.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to talk about it, but it's true.
Yeah, only to everyone on,
Yeah.
on a podcast. But we've both been hungry before.
Oh, my God.
Most of our childhood.
Yes.
You're
It's
hungry
true.
boys. I've been around both of you enough to know you're hungry boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my eating habits haven't changed, but my metabolism sure has.
Right?
Oh, boy. Yeah.
But I've never been hungry enough to eat a certain thing. I have never crossed a certain Rubicon.
Right.
Mostly because I haven't had the opportunity. But
the forbidden meal.
I think Uncle Dan is going to talk to us a little bit about the most dangerous game.
Yes, indeed.
The most dangerous dinner.
Yeah, that's right, fellas. We're talking about cannibalism today, and I want to start with a quiz.
Oh,
We
You ready
always,
for
you
this?
know what? We need to stop doing the show before lunch.
Yeah, it's going to taste better and better as we move on. I promise.
Yeah.
All right. Today I'm going to talk about what may well have been the largest and longest-lasting cannibal cult in human history.
Oh.
This was a common practice of this group of people for centuries. I want you guys to tell me what continent you think I'm talking about.
and
I'll give you a hint
Okay.
before you dive in. Unlike many cannibal practices, this group depersonalized their cannibalism, which is to say that in an unusual twist for cannibals, these creeps did not know the people they were eating.
Okay. Well, what continent are the Mennonites on?
All. So everywhere.
Oh, they're nightmarish in their primitive savagery, aren't they?
It could be. Yeah.
I don't know. I want to say it's the Catholics because they are. Well, they are a cannibal cult. They just don't like to be called that. But
Sure.
I would say
But
the
their cannibalism is fake cannibalism because it's a pretend thing.
It's a pretend thing, but not to them.
But not to them.
I would say the Australian plate.
I'm going to say the Americas. Can I say both continents at the same time?
Sure, absolutely.
That's where I'm going.
I am not talking about New Guinea or the Amazon basin, nor am I referencing any ill-fated wagon trails crossing the deserts of Utah or Nevada, or airplanes in the Andes. The answer we were looking for, fellas, is Europe. And the weirdo group of cannibals that I'm talking about was a small cult known as Pretty Much Everybody. for centuries, from ancient Rome to the end of the 18th century.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I should be clear, I'm not claiming that everybody in Europe ate other people, but I'm claiming that it was totally normal to do so, and it happened all the fucking time with nobody even raising an eyebrow.
Really?
Mind you, when I hear talk of cannibalism, I often picture a zombie-like scene where a bunch of crazed lunatics voraciously descend on an unsuspecting newcomer. That's not what we're talking about here, though in a few cases, not too far off. What I'm talking about is medicinal cannibalism. The eating or use of human flesh and blood to cure whatever ails you. And damn, they really went for it. Look, for a long time and all over too. I read accounts from what is now Germany, England, Spain, France, Italy. It feels like the only place I haven't read accounts from is Transylvania. So, but I'm sure it happened there too. So what am I talking about here? Well, for millennia, and even today, for way too many, what passed for medicine was little more than hopeful pretend magic and the crazed guesses of men in important-looking robes. Yes, there was the very occasional time when somebody stumbled onto a genuinely useful herb or something, but mostly it was just a whole lot of, well, this kind of sounds like it might work. Let's believe in it for hundreds of years. One of the driving influences in medical cannibalism was the prevailing and very persistent notion that a person had a finite and predetermined amount of life force in them. Stronger people had more, of course, weaker people had less. Thus, when someone died violently, quote, before their time, meaning when they were young and healthy, there was still tons of good life force left in them, just ripe for the picking. So, for instance, ancient Roman Pliny the Elder wrote almost 2,000 years ago about a fun tradition where people afflicted with seizure disorders, what used to be called epilepsy, would rush from the stands of a fighting arena to drink down the vitality and healing goodness contained in the hot, sticky blood of fallen gladiators.
Oh my God, is that real?
Yep, that's a real. That was a big belief and apparently a thing that they were allowed to do.
It must have been a deleted scene in Gladiator.
Yeah, Russell Crowe never let us see that one.
That must also be the origin of rushing the field after to tear down the goalposts.
Yeah, exactly.
At the football game.
Well,
That's clearly the origin.
They have nothing better to do because we stopped leaving dead ones out on the field. That's what we needed to be doing. Then the goalposts would be okay. Anyway, we know that this practice dates back a ways, but it seems that the practice really didn't hit its peak until, any guesses? The Renaissance.
Recently? Oh, God.
Did you think I was going to say the Dark Ages?
I was hoping.
Nope. It certainly happened then, plenty. But this shit peaked in the enlightened times of the 16th and 17th centuries. And what kind of cannibalism was the order of the day? Well, that depended on who you were and what you could afford. Don't worry, the answers for poor and rich people are equally horrifying. They're just horrifying in different ways. So let's start with the wealthy, shall we? What kind of medicine was available to those for whom money was no object?
I'm not going to like this list.
It's
But
so good.
I am making notes. Continue.
Please do. To answer that, we have to note two things about the learned Europeans of that time. First, they had a huge respect, possibly even a reverence, for the wisdom and education of the Middle East. Persian and Arab thinking was way ahead of Europe in most ways, and they all knew it. So when the Europeans heard that in Persia, black viscous goop was all the rage as a curative, they were excited. The second thing that you need to know about the Europeans is that they weren't always good at listening and or understanding what was being told to them. The sticky yuck that I'm referring to was bitumen or pitch or asphalt, basically. So, maybe the Persians weren't so far ahead of them after all. But they were into it. They would use it in poultices, and they would even swallow it, that sort of thing. Now, I don't know if you know this, But in Persia and parts of the Middle East, they spoke different languages than they did in Europe. So sometimes when the Persians referred to a poultice made of road tar, which they called mum, the Europeans understood what they meant. Sometimes, though, they mistranslated it and mistook it for a different word, an Arabic word, and that stupid little miscommunication really does seem to be the reason why Europeans became obsessed for centuries with curing their ailments by eating mumia, which they took to mean ground up, genuine, honest-to-God Egyptian mummies.
Oh.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Yeah, I knew that was a thing. Yeah, I did know that was a thing.
It seems to have come from one of the substances used in ancient Egyptian embalming process. It was a one-word flub, and it was off to the races.
Seems like kind of a finite resource, you know what I mean?
You think? Yeah. Although there were a lot of them. And every enterprising explorer with a crew suddenly threw caution to the wind and headed to Egypt to do some lucrative grave robbing. The wealthy needed their mummy powder. So
Wait, and that was based on just the misapprehension of a word.
Yeah. That was
my God.
basically it. Now
Super.
and believe me, don't get it twisted. It wasn't an interest in archaeology that drove the exploration of the ancient sites of Egypt. It was like finding artifacts and early writing systems was a curiosity at best. What drove the Europeans to scour the deserts of northern Africa was the desperate desire to eat ground-up 1,000-year-old human bodies. For the health benefits.
You know, before I take a full teaspoon of ground-up, desiccated Egyptian royalty, I'm going to check the work and make sure the word was translated correctly.
No, you're not. Oh, man. It was just completely rife. Wow. Everyone in Europe. It was the curative of choice for centuries. And so, want to take a guess when I say centuries, I want you to take a guess as to the last year that Merck & Company listed mumia on their price list.
It has to be during the Victorian period. It has to be the 1890s.
I'll say 1901.
1924, ladies and gentlemen.
Jesus Christ.
I win by the Price is Right rules.
You do
Yes.
win. You didn't go over, so that's good.
Here's a mouthful of dust and
People dust.
yeah.
Oh, my God. But I will say this, as gross as that is, the rich did not stop at eating preserved North Africans. No! The supply of that was too limited, and there were so many other bodies available. One of the most famous examples was the favorite elixir of King Charles II of England. Old Chuck II was a bit of a science nerd himself. He apparently had his own chemistry lab. So he wasn't about to go in for any old nonsense. He wanted the best possible medicine, and he was going to pay for it. After doing all of the due diligence one could expect from a brilliant mind such as his, he finally found his cure-all. He paid a reported 6,000 pounds. That is not a small sum, even for a king. To a local college professor for the recipe for what would come to be known as the King's Drops. This was a distillation of alcohol, sometimes a little chocolate, and the powdered skull of grave-robbed Irish folk.
Oh, my God.
Jesus Christ.
Skulls.
Actually, you know what? It's probably fantastic. That sounds great.
It's delicious.
Yeah.
And you really want that good Irish skull. Skulls, you see, were close to the brains, and so when the person died, a whole bunch of the head health seeped from the brain into the skulls. Make sense? No? Fuck you!
You know, it is amazing we have made it this far.
It
also is
really...
this completely by accident. This show has taken on one of the strangest tenors of any of our shows we've ever done.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot of reference to skulls and to royalty. So there we go.
Yeah.
Fancy doctors of the time were also known to grow moss on human skulls and then use that as medicine. Great, apparently, for stopping nosebleeds. So that's good.
That's good for me to know. Great.
Yeah, exactly. Another super good curative was human fat. Aside from being where all the good flavor is, fat was, medically magical too.
Why am I not healthier?
Right? Well, because you've been using it wrong. You've been storing it inside instead of, let's say, rubbing it on your skin to ease your gout, or taking it orally for bleeding or bruising. Not sure how that works, but shut up.
I love how we have not renamed gout. Right?
It's a great word.
It just sounds so like old guy in a castle disease.
Old-timey.
Yeah,
Well,
it's like there should be an old illustration of a person with like a big swollen face with a bandage wrapped around their head, looking sad.
I did skip a reference to dropsy, so you're welcome.
Don't talk about dropsy; it's pretty awful.
Anyway, famous physician to the wealthy and powerful, Sir Theodore Turquet de Mayerne, who tended very effectively to the kings of England and France, and also
Not his real name.
also Oliver Cromwell when kings went out of fashion for that little blip.
Yeah.
He would kill your pain with a poultice of hemlock, opium, and human fat. Of those three ingredients, I'm pretty sure it was the fat that did the trick. Human fat was such a valuable medicine that collecting it was a big deal. You couldn't just desecrate any body, but if you could get your hands on some good, taken before their time dead folks, and the family wouldn't object, you could charge insane Martin Shkreli-type money for it. I read one account of a battle in 1603 Spain in which an eyewitness reported, quote, "The surgeons of the town went thither and brought away sacks full of man's grease, which they had drawn out of the bodies."
Oh,
Yes, sir.
yick!
Sacks full of man's grease.
All I can think of is that scene in Fight Club where they're trying to get that liposuction fat in garbage bags over the barbed wire fence and it breaks.
Too bad they were just using it for soap like idiots. They could have been
Well, it was
eating that
medicinal.
and fixing their dropsy.
And I don't think that the bags in 1603 were waterproof, watertight, right?
Well,
So you just got this dripping bag of human flesh over your shoulder.
yeah, well,
Oh God!
you get home what you can.
What a time to be alive!
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, but battles were not the only place to find bodies to plunder. There was one guy in town who had a pretty steady supply of young bodies and needed the extra cash. That's right, your best source for all the finest human-derived pharmaceuticals was the executioner. Apparently, one of the perks of that job was he got to do whatever he wanted with the bodies of the people he killed.
I wonder if that was
fantastic.
written. I wonder if that was written up in his benefits package.
Yes, indeed. I won't
Yeah.
speculate on all of the uses the executioners put those bodies to, but one of the most lucrative was curing the sick and the infirm. Isn't that nice? States.
I love to think of HR explaining that to him. Right. So generally, we're not going to work after dark. The axes are provided, and you get to do whatever you want with the leftovers.
bodies.
You get to keep the leavings.
Right,
The
exactly.
leavings.
the bits and bobs once you're done. We don't ask questions. So yes, these state-sponsored killers didn't make much money back in the day, but if you knew how to render the fat and collect the blood from your victims, you had a great little side hustle on your hands. The good stuff went to the local apothecary, who paid top dollar, but there was always demand even for the stuff that the rich folks didn't want. And this is where the poor people come in. Obviously, you're not going to be able to afford a fancy big city doctor. So you could go straight to the source and ask old Boris the Hangman what he's got for toothache. And what has he got? If you're lucky, a tooth from a dead guy that you can rub on your tooth or hold in your hand or grind up and eat. Whatever, it's all just bullshit anyway. So maybe your particular hangman will know a good recipe for a jam made of human blood. Here's one from a Franciscan apothecary. First, you got to get some blood from, preferably, and this is a quote, "from persons of warm, moist temperament, such as those of a blotchy red complexion and rather plump of build." Uncle Doug?
No, leave it
How's
alone.
your temperament? Feeling moist?
Thanksgiving is going to be so weird.
Anyway, what you do is you take that blood and you, quote, let it dry into a sticky mass. Then, pleasant, right?
Yeah. Then you eat it.
From there, quote, place it upon a flat, smooth table of soft wood and cut it into thin slices, allowing its watery part to drip away. When it is no longer dripping, place it on a stove on the same table and stir it to a batter with a knife. When it is absolutely dry, place it immediately into a warm bronze mortar and pound it, forcing it through a sieve of the finest silk. When it has all been sieved, seal it in a glass jar and renew it in the spring of every year.
Oh, my God.
So get yourself a redhead and get that good ginger blood running.
God,
where am I going to find a bronze mortar and pet? Like, this recipe's absurd.
Well, that's why not everybody gets it.
Yeah.
If it were easy, everyone could do it.
I'd love to see one of those little Facebook videos of how to make a meal for how to do this.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so there you have it. Science. But wait, Uncle Dan, did you say that was from a Franciscan? Yes, little Timmy, I did say that. Lest you think that this was some fringe set of practices, the churches were totally leading the charge on this nastiness. Friars and monks all over Europe were working tirelessly to figure out the grossest violation of human bodies for your consuming pleasure.
Ugh.
Even while they were looking at similar practices in the savages around the world and condemning them as disgusting primitive monsters.
Yeah.
Isn't that fun? Ugh. So get out there and get some man's grease, y'all. We're all just fucking apes.
Well, it's nightmarish and gross in every conceivable way, but it's not. It's especially in enlightened, air quotes, enlightened Christian Europe.
Yeah.
But because of their obsession with blood magic, it's hardly surprising, right? That we joke about the Eucharist, we joke about the Catholics being a cannibal cult, but it's kind of a real thing.
It came out of practices that were absolutely condoned.
Yeah.
Like these are common practices that carried forth into the late 1800s and even a little bit into the 1900s.
Yeah, and still you can go into Catholic churches all over the world and, where they're venerating the finger bone of Timothy. Mm-hmm. So maybe they're not eating that stuff anymore, but that there are body parts that are considered magical and powerful. And we talked about this when we talked about cephalophory, like the Catholics saints carrying their own heads.
Right.
How they started making up these stories to keep people from robbing the reliquaries to steal the magical stuff, right? The magical body parts. So this is
and I should mention, and this is an interesting correlation that I don't know how this correlates, but like magic, the magic of fingers, of hands, of body parts was a real thing. These executioners that I was talking about would sell you a finger, which you could hang around your neck or hang in your barn to keep you or your animals healthy.
I can get you a toe by 3 p.m.
You want a toe? I can get you a toe. Yeah, exactly. This is like this kind of stuff. People would run up to a hangman after the person has died, and if they had a particular malady, and hope that because part of the deal is that every time someone touched the body, some of that life force would drain away. So if you got some of the first touch, you got the best stuff.
Right.
So they would hope that he would like either give you something like fresh blood to drink, or wipe the dead person's hand across your face, and then you get. So yeah, I mean, when I talked about Charles II, but when Charles I was killed, he was beheaded by Oliver Cromwell. People ran up and sopped up the blood of the king because it was thought that a king's blood would, of course, have the most curative powers.
Wow.
And then they ate it.
Well, we're going to have to get a tub of man's grease ointment and a jar of blood jelly onto the Heretique shop here as soon as possible.
Yeah, well, it will happen for sure.
Yeah, well, I don't need to eat today, so that's great. Thanks, Dan. And with that, everyone enjoy your meals, and let's move on.
Let's move on.
Sir.
Well, friends, that's it for this week's Ghastly Show.
Hey, if you like to eat people, we'd love to hear from you. Send us all of your pertinent information and the phone number of the nearest police officer, and we'll get along with that. You can send those to howto@howtoheretic.com.
Or if you've got a head full of rice, you can leave us a voicemail at 903-88-HOW-TO, which is 903-884-6986. I'm also on Twitter at HowToHeretic.
And thanks to our tasty, tasty patrons.
And thanks to the most delicious of all, Cody Layton, for editing the show.
And thank all of you for tuning in, folks.
Bye, friends. Sorry about the show.